The ocean. It is what connects all of our lives, from the towns 5,000 meters above sea level to the fascinating creatures in the deepest parts of the sea. We all share one ocean. Pioneers who first crossed the oceanic frontier found new lands, resources, and communities. Not only did we find new resources on the land, but we also found new resources in the ocean. Whale blubber was used to make light through candle and makeup products for women. Over time, we could use data to figure out how salt marshes store carbon dioxide. But we also realized how voluminous the ocean is, and we ended up pouring everything and anything we didn't want on our lands into our ocean. Oceans are critical to human survival, producing over half of the world's oxygen supply, absorbing carbon dioxide, and regulating climate. It can tell us so many things about the environment, space, history, etc. It's important to understand how vast frontier has changed over time. Oceanography is probably one of the latest additions to the various fields of science, but its origins date back several tens of thousands of years. Of those years, humans have managed to explore only about 5% of the ocean floor. The remaining 95% of the ocean remains a mystery. But what's not a mystery is that we are on track to pollute many areas of the ocean that we haven't even explored yet. According to the most recent scientific studies, an ancient ocean likely covered the entire planet 150 million years after the formation of Earth, about 4.4 billion years ago. If you compare that prehistoric sea to our heavily contaminated oceans, you can clearly see the difference, but it's important to understand why. Ocean pollution can take place in many different forms, but they are all harmful. Some effects pollution has had on our oceans are loss of biodiversity, destruction of habitats, public health issues, endangerment and extinction, and much more. But what are some of the main pollutants that intoxicate our oceans?
After the invention of plastic in the mid-1860s, the material was rarely used until World War II. During World War II, plastic technology came to the forefront because copper, aluminum, steel, and zinc all became highly sought after metals used only for the war effort. This heavily increased the need for plastics. Now, plastics consume our oceans and the animals consume the trash. There are 5.25 trillion pieces of plastic debris in the ocean. Of that mass, 269,000 tons float on the surface, and about 16 million tons of microplastic litter the deep sea. And that's just the plastic. We should all know by now that plastics are detrimental for the marine ecosystem. For examples, sea turtles, fish, dolphins, and many other marine animals eat the plastic that floats among them. Unable to digest this, the animals die. Plastics ingested by fish is caught and eaten by us, but we never acknowledged the damage plastic was causing until about 100 years later than it was invented. Oil spills that happen in rivers, bays, and the ocean most often are caused by accidents involving tankers, barges, pipelines, refineries, drilling rigs, but also occur from recreational boats. Oil spills can be very damaging to marine birds, sea turtles, and mammals, and also can be dangerous for fish and shellfish. Oil can demolish the enclosed ability of fur-bearing mammals, such as sea otters, and the water-repelling abilities of a bird's feathers, revealing them to the harsh elements. One of the most destructive oil spills was the 2010 oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. This 87-day spill was caused by many careless mistakes, and because of these mistakes, over 134 million gallons of oil was released into the ocean. According to an assessment done by biologicaldiversity.org, they found that the spill likely killed and injured about 6,165 sea turtles, about 82,000 birds of over 100 different species, as many as 25,900 marine mammals, and a vast number of fish, oysters, crabs, corals, and other magnificent creatures. Wastewater and sewage are another thing that has alchemized the ocean frontier. Mesopotamia is the home of the earliest evidence of a sewer system. It dates back to 4000 BC. The Romans developed a complex system covered by stones similar to modern sewers. There was a big difference. The waste from those early Roman toilets flushed into a nearby river or stream. That practice continued through the 1800s. Sewage and wastewater disposal severely impact aquatic ecosystems. For example, it contaminates the water in the animals, disrupts the food chain, alters their reproductive cycles, and it disrupts ecosystems. In September 2016, a large part of the River Trent was polluted by sewage in Staffordshire, United Kingdom. Over 15,000 fish were killed, and it would have been way worse if the sewage had reached a human water source. Contamination of water sources can cause diseases to spread, such as E. coli and hepatitis A. Though we have been trying to fix the sewage issues by having laws for wastewater dumping and starting organizations such as the Ocean Sewage Alliance, which was established in 2021, millions of gallons of raw or partially treated sewage still make it to our waters every year. Red tides are caused by a harmful algal bloom. Red tides occur worldwide, but they are more prominent in Florida's Gulf Coast. More intense rainfall is one obvious way climate change could affect red tide. Blooms feed upon nutrients, especially nitrogen, that get dumped into waterways and accessed via runoff from people's fertilizer-coated yards and leaky septic or sewer systems. In the 1700s, red tides were reported in the southern Gulf of Mexico, and by the 1840s they had spread to Florida's Gulf Coast. Even the chronicles of Spanish explorers in the 1500s describe fish kills close to Tampa Bay. One of the worst recorded blooms in Florida was a 30-month bloom that started in 1994 and finished in 1997.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you do here?
So I am a volunteer diver with the Central Street Rovers, and I'm basically volunteering today with one of our partners, which is Keep Humanity Beautiful, and we're doing a shoreline cleanup.
What inspired you to start this program?
I'm a diver, and every time I would go out, I would see trash like entangled around reefs, structures, fishing piers, and it was like really sad.
What happens to the trash after you collect it?
We have some that goes through recycling, but most of it gets taken to the landfill. One of the reasons why is when you're taking things out of the mangroves and the water, it becomes very degraded. And if it has any level of degradation, then it can't go through the machines that sort recycling.
Is there any specific time pollution is at the worst, and why is that?
One of the things that we are constantly battling in Florida is after hurricanes. Hurricanes will wash everything away that's here, but unfortunately the waters that come in from the deeper ocean area, and so they bring in a lot of the microplastics, and the pieces that are out floating in the Gulf all get washed in, and so we find a much larger percentage of trash probably a month after a hurricane.
So, what do you know about red tides and how do they affect
That is a really good question. Scientifically, people are still trying to figure out what causes red tide, but red tide is an abundance of algae that will block out the sun and the oxygen, suck up the oxygen from below. And what happens is it's a cyclical thing. It will kill off the grasses. When the grasses are gone, the fish can no longer breed, they can no longer breathe, they no longer have a place to lay their eggs. That causes a problem with the birds. The birds in turn will cause a bigger problem with some mammals, and that's when you have this entire cyclical thing where we, after red tide goes away, go in and have to replant some of the algae, try and bring the fish back into our bays. By bringing the fish, you'll get the birds back. Getting the birds back helps bring our mammals back in.
What type of pollution do you see driving during ocean cleanups?
During ocean cleanups, we see microplastics. Microplastics is where your bottle has broken down into 50 million little pieces. We have a lot of times we have glass that's been broken down as well. But our number one thing, no matter where we are, is we end up finding cigarette butts everywhere. And it is the number one pollutant in the United States.
It doesn't take a lot of work to help save our oceans. It has become easier to recycle our trash. All that you must do is give a bit of effort. Build creativity by reusing the things we deem unusable, and reduce the amount of trash you create. The ocean could not be more important to our survival, and we are the ones destroying it. The lack of awareness could cost us our lives.